Tonight on Real Sports. Even though he could be an NBA draft pick this year, Lee Benson is relatively unknown because for the past 8 years, he's been where no one wants to go.
I don't know how I got cut, but I got cut. The doctor told me this could have been a razor blade.
Kurt Schilling is coming off a season filled with a number of professional honors and plenty of personal turmoil.
How big a problem is this? Very big problem, because if I don't...
Hard-hitting. Now, the HBO Sports presentation, Real Sports with Brian Gumbel.
The following is a special presentation of HBO Sports, the network of champions. This is Real Sports with Brian Gumbel.
Tonight on Real Sports. Even though he could be an NBA draft pick this year, Lee Benson is relatively unknown because for the past 8 years, he's been where no one wants to go.
I don't know how I got cut, but I got cut. The doctor told me this could have been a razor blade.
Kurt Schilling is coming off a season filled with a number of professional honors and plenty of personal turmoil.
How big a problem is this? Very big problem, because if I don't find a way, it'll be something that'll probably eventually end up killing me.
Sarah Hughes' gold medal performance has sent countless girls onto the ice dreaming of Olympic glory. Unfortunately, many, if not most, are being pushed out there by their parents.
They're pushing and spending thousands of dollars every year on skates and coaches and ice time and et cetera, and the child's just in it for fun.
5 years ago, Ted Nolan was a top head coach in the National Hockey League. Now he's out of the league, working with native youngsters in the Canadian wilderness and wondering what went wrong.
Why isn't Ted Nolan coaching now? You know, that's probably one of the biggest battles that I've ever faced in my entire life.
And now, from the HBO Real Sports studio in New York, your host, Brian Gumbel.
Good evening, and welcome to Real Sports. Here we are in the midst of March, a time when college hoop fans everywhere are caught up in March Madness, checking their brackets to see if their teams are out or advancing. The players involved are doing much the same. Some are playing the final games of their career. Others are using the tournament as a last chance to showcase their skills for NBA scouts. But not all of the top NBA prospects are in the tournament, not by a long shot. Bernard Goldberg has a profile of one pro prospect that few people but the pro scouts have ever even heard of.
He's 6'11", averages 35 points a game, is being called the best freshman big man in all of college basketball, and he's considered a possible first-round draft pick by NBA scouts, at least the ones who can find him. That's because Lee Benson is not playing anywhere most of us have ever heard of. He's playing here at Brown Mackie Junior College, which is located in a strip mall in Salina, Kansas, in a building that used to be the True Value hardware store. And it's the home of the best-kept secret in college basketball. What makes Lee Benson's ability, his potential, and his story even more remarkable is that the last place he played basketball wasn't in high school, but right here at this high-security prison in Ohio, where he was an inmate for 8.5 years. How old are you?
28.
28.
Right.
You're a freshman.
Right. Sound crazy, huh?
Way back in high school in Dayton, Ohio, Lee Benson was not only the top player in the city, he was one of the best in the entire nation.
He was a phenomenal athlete in that He could run like a track star at 6'8", 6'9" at that time.
As a director of youth basketball in Ohio, Ben Price followed Lee Benson's career.
He was the top player in the city.
Top
hands
player.
down, hands down.
Everybody knew Lee Benson.
Yes, he dominated, he dominated.
You received an awful lot of letters from recruiters, college recruiters.
Over 100, I know that.
Over 100 letters?
Right.
From like big schools?
Right.
What'd you think of all that?
I wouldn't even open them up.
Wouldn't even open them up?
Wouldn't even open them up.
That's because Dayton's basketball MVP was moonlighting as a high-paid, gun-wielding crack dealer in the city's most notorious housing project. And after his junior year, Benson dropped out of school and began piling up new stats. 11 arrests in 1992, from grand theft auto to armed robbery. Ben Price, who also counseled kids with problems, tried to straighten Lee Benson out.
I had been getting reports that he was hanging out with the wrong crowd and involving himself in bad situations.
What'd you say to him?
Well, I told him that there's only two places that you can go in that lifestyle that you're leading. That's either the graveyard or the penitentiary, if you're lucky.
In the summer of 1992, Ben Price's warning became reality. Benson got into a dispute with one of his customers, a crack addict whom Benson held at gunpoint, while just yards away, a man described as Benson's muscle shot and killed another client. Benson avoided a murder charge, but not a sentence of up to 25 years in prison. You were a bad guy back then.
I wasn't. I was just foolish.
Looks like you were a bad guy. I mean, here's a guy who's dealing drugs, who used to carry a gun around. Here's a guy who was uncomfortably close to a murder.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to be like everybody else in the hood, you know. I was a kid out there acting stupid, and it cost me, you know, almost all my 20s, you know.
What was it like when the judge said 7 to 25 years in state penitentiary?
You know, I knew I was in for a long ride. So all it was about to me was to survive.
Which isn't always easy in a place like this. But in prison, Benson ran into a familiar face. His face. Ben Price, the basketball coach and youth counselor, had been moonlighting too as a major cocaine dealer, and he was in for 15 to life.
We both chose the wrong road, and later on down the line, we ended up at the same place. I said, well, you see where you ended up, don't you? And he started laughing and said, you're here too.
Price became Benson's mentor again, explaining to him that in prison, everything, even basketball, is a whole new ball game. You played basketball in prison?
Yeah, if you call it that.
They call it commando ball because it's so physical.
Commando ball?
Yes. It's not your finesse game of basketball.
What was it like in prison if you try to take the ball to the basket?
The whole team would jump on your back. I mean, it was...
You mean literally jump on your back?
Jump on your back. They'll tackle you. That's when I started shooting three-pointers.
Really?
I started shooting like 500 shots a day by myself.
Yeah, well, he developed an awesome jumper because of that. A jump shot that was unstoppable.
Because you can get killed in prison going to the basket. He developed the jump shot?
Right. It's survival.
Ironically, it was commando ball that gave Lee Benson the jump shot that has caught the eye of scouts from nearly every NBA team. But back in prison, commando ball nearly killed him, like the night he scored the game-winning basket and the lights somehow went out.
Guys bunched up, you know, posseed up in groups, like whispering, hollering, fighting, you know, scuffling.
What happened to you?
I don't know how I got cut, but I got cut.
Where'd you get cut?
I got a cut on my side. You want to see it?
I don't know exactly what they cut him with because when the lights go out, I'll try to put my back against the wall and make sure I can protect myself.
This is basketball.
This is prison.
And prison nearly got the best of Lee Benson, who was constantly getting himself into bad situations.
He was getting locked up and put in solitary confinement for little stupid stuff just through his associations.
What'd you say to him?
I told him I'd kick his ass if he didn't cut those guys loose and stay out of that foolishness. When I got him to see this, you're never going to get out of here messing with them guys. They don't have any dreams, no potential, any hope, but you do.
Then in 1997, Lee's younger brother Ryan was killed in the Dayton projects, and the murderer was sent to the same prison as Benson.
And guys was running up like, man, he here, man. You know, let's go on and do it. And I told one guy, I said, doing for what? I said, that's not gonna bring my brother back. So all he's gonna do is hurt me and hurt my family. So I said, I wanna make it home. Retaliation, nah. You know, you grow up in situations.
But the fact is, Lee Benson might still be in prison today if it weren't for this man. Francis Flax, who's not a lawyer or a parole officer, but Brown Mackie's basketball coach.
Clear that thing!
2 years ago, Flax was recruiting in Dayton when he heard stories about the town's 6'11" convict and decided to get a closer look.
You ever been to a prison before?
I had never recruited in a prison before. I can say this is the first, and it may be the last.
We talked for almost 3 hours. You know, it was a wonderful visit. You know, I hated to see him walk out the doors.
How important was this to him?
Well, you have to look at it like this. He went from being recruited by every major college in the nation to being forgotten about. And then some 7 years later, here comes this guy inquiring about him. He wouldn't care if it was Hokey Doke Community College, you know, out in Zimbabwe. But this guy showed an interest in him and wanted to check him out.
I did not envision it, that Lee would be the kind of person he was. I was expecting a brash, smart ass, but after I met him, there's something about Lee Benson that I really like.
My guess is what touched you, besides anything else, is the fact that he was 6'11" and he was a great basketball player. If he couldn't play basketball, you wouldn't have been interested in Lee Benson, neither would anybody else.
You're exactly right. I'm a basketball coach. I'm interested in winning.
Good hustle, son, good hustle.
If he wouldn't have been 6'11" and a great basketball player, I wouldn't have put in the time, the effort to get him here. As far as I'm concerned, he'd still be in the Correctional Institute in Ohio.
That's because when Flax was leaving the prison, he noticed something in Benson's prison file that nobody else had noticed.
I read that paper from the top to the bottom, and all those dates on there, the one that was glaring to me was eligible for parole December 14th, 1998. Here it is, July 2000. I said, what in the world? I said, this kid is serving time I don't think he needs to be serving.
What made him give me hope when he told me I was eligible for parole? I'm like, man, so, you know, I was getting on my dad, hire a lawyer, you know. I'm past due.
And while Lee was hoping for parole in Ohio, Flax was laying the groundwork back in Kansas. Salina, after all, didn't know what to expect from a 6'11" ex-convict.
I had to convince a lot of people. I had to convince my wife. I had to convince the director of our school. I even had a meeting with the chief of police in our town.
Generally speaking, what did they say to you?
Are you sure? Are you sure? Now, we know you've had some characters before, but are you sure?
They were saying, if this guy comes to our small town and starts trouble, it's going to be your rear end that we go after.
I would have been the former coach at this school, and I probably would have had to leave the community.
Do you mean that literally?
I mean that literally.
Man, they would have ran him out of Kansas. I knew that. I gave him my word. I said I would never do nothing to make you turn your back on me or do anything to embarrass you.
Is that going to happen?
No, it won't.
Last August, Benson was released from prison to coach Flax, and within 3 months, the NBA was calling.
When the scouts come in, how much concern is there about his past?
There is concern. One team has said no thank you because they don't want to become involved. But most of them keep coming back, so they must be interested.
This is basketball without the frills, without the hoopla, without March Madness. This is low-rent basketball where Lee Benson would be the big man on campus if the school only had a campus, where even the one and only NBA prospect has to do the team's laundry after each game.
It's better than washing dishes in prison for $17 a month. Anything coach asked me to do, if it was for free, I might have to do it. I'm gonna have to do it.
Where would you be without him?
Ain't no telling. Either in there, in Dayton working, or you never know, back in the streets or dead.
And with him?
Right here in Salina, Kansas, making it in life.
Bernie, how many years of eligibility does Lee Benson have left?
1 more year in junior college, and if he were to go to a 4-year college, 2 more there. But
That's not even an option.
No, he's not going to a four-year college because he's got to make a decision. Does he want to get better one more year at a junior college by playing one more year? But he's going to get older also.
Right.
And it's one thing to be drafted as a 28-year-old rookie. 29 is only a year more, but now we're getting into a psychological area that's kind of getting old.
Okay, call me cynical, but let me ask a stupid thing, because this is still supposed to be college athletics.
Right.
Does he go to class?
Yeah. Yes, but the real question is this just a sham? Is he majoring in basketball?
You tell me.
And you could ask that question of hundreds of kids going to schools that we've actually heard of. You know, the kid who goes for 1 year or 2 years, and he's a major in phys ed or business or whatever. He's majoring in basketball. This kid is majoring in business at Brown Mackie Junior College, but he's there to play basketball.
All right.
That's a fact.
And to that end, we wish him well.
Right.
But he's 28 years old. If he does come out in the pros and he doesn't make it, is there a fallback position?
Yeah, I mean, and really, that's a very important point, isn't it? This is what he told me. I asked him that. And he said, I'm majoring in business, and even if I don't make it, something he doesn't want to really contemplate, I'll go into some kind of business. He's not going to become Bill Gates. We know that. Will he become something in the world of business? This is one of those only time will tell stories. But he's really thinking of the NBA. That's why he's going to college. That's why so many kids go to college. And if he doesn't make it, let's cross our fingers that he doesn't wind up back in the projects in Dayton, Ohio, which led to all of this.
Yeah, we wish him the best. All right, Brent, thanks very much. College basketball's madness isn't the only thing that dominates the sports buzz in this month of March. This is also the month of spring training. It's a time when hopes spring eternal, a time when even the worst of teams imagine dethroning the world champion